Well, hey there, couples. We're in the studio again. I'm here with Tracy, and this is week 2 of our Marriage Basics series. So last week we talked about love, and there's only 3 principles. The second principle is all about trust. Trust is so important in your marriage if you're going to have a healthy, lifelong marriage. So it builds on that first principle. So Tracy, why don't we start by defining what do we mean by trust?
Okay, so trust is defined as relying on somebody else's integrity, strength, or ability. So the key is trust is about what somebody else brings to the table. And I think that's important because I think a lot of people confuse trust as something that's personal to you, that if you don't trust people, that's because you're not a trusting person. But really, by definition, trust is about responding to what somebody else is offering you. And then you either give trust or you don't.
Yeah. Okay, so here's how we state the principle. Marriage principle number 2. Trust is earned, based on this definition, trust is earned, not freely given.
Right.
So it's not like forgiveness, we'll talk about that later, where you just give it freely to someone. Trust is something that the person has to earn. A spouse has to earn it. You can't just demand it, right?
Yeah, because if the definition of trust is that it's relying on somebody else's integrity, strength, or ability, then I'm going to give you trust as you prove to be reliable, as you prove to be a person that's worthy of my trust.
So then what does that mean my task is as your husband?
Okay, so if you're going to develop a healthy relationship, then your job as my husband would be to earn my trust, to be consistent in word and action, to show me that you're reliable and that I can rely on your strength, integrity, and ability.
Now, does this mean that I have to be perfect?
No.
Okay, because I know some people might be out there saying, man, I've really screwed up, or this is a daunting task. How can I do this?
Well, trust is something that you're going to be earning every single day. I think that needs to be our mindset in a healthy marriage. Every day is an opportunity to earn trust.
Yeah.
So we like to think about it in terms of like a bank account.
Yeah.
Every day we're in a relationship, I'm either making deposits in your trust account or I'm messing up and we had to take a withdrawal. But the good news is when you're earning trust, that when you mess up, you can acknowledge that you messed up. Here's how I'm going to be better next time, and earn the trust back. But I think it's a mistake for couples to think that once you're married, like trust would never be an issue. You're always going to be wanting to earn trust, and trust is something that you earn.
Yeah.
I don't come to you and just say, well, trust me, just trust me, Brian. No, I need to show that I'm trustworthy to you.
Yeah, and we've seen that with some couples. They'll come in and they've got some issue in their marriage, and the one spouse is saying, see, she just doesn't trust me. And a lot of times it's what we say in response is, well, have you earned the trust? You're thinking wrong about trust if you're saying she just doesn't trust me.
Right.
You have to be trustworthy. Now, certainly some spouses maybe are a little bit paranoid, so maybe that's for another video. But I think generally speaking, the idea here is you earn trust. That's your job, that's your goal. You earn trust.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk through the 3 characteristics then of trust. What are those?
Okay, so the first thing is trust is a reactive response. So as you do things to prove your reliability to me, as you show me in your word and your actions that you're trustworthy, I'm going to react then with trust. So it's going to be based on what you're doing or not doing.
Okay, so trust is reactive. What's the second characteristic?
Okay, so the second characteristic of trust is that it's measurable. So the first thing is you react to what you see, but then I also can measure. I can say to you, hey, you know what? You're still not earning my trust in this particular category because I said this is what I needed you to do, but you haven't done it because I gave you specific behaviors, so I can measure that, right? So when you're saying I want to earn trust with you, then you need to be specific. What are the specific behaviors that you would want to see?
Yeah.
Because then you can measure if they're living up to that.
Yeah, so if you're struggling with this, with earning trust, just a real good, well, these will be in questions below, but a real good question is just, what can I do to earn your trust?
That's right.
Make sure it's actionable, make sure it's specific, and make sure it's realistic, right?
Right.
Like it's got to be maybe baby steps to move toward even greater trust in the end. Okay, what's the third one?
So the last one then is it's time consuming, meaning trust, it's going to take time, especially if trust has been broken. You have to give time for your spouse to earn it back.
Yeah.
But again, every day is an opportunity to make deposits in the trust account.
Yeah.
Every day in our marriage, we're earning trust from one another.
Yeah. Okay, so one more thing, if trust takes time, and there's couples out there, whether you're married already and you've got many years of maybe depositing in the trust bank, pulling out of the trust bank. If trust takes time, then how does forgiveness fit into this when it comes to sort of restoring maybe broken trust in a relationship?
Okay, so this is important. So the goal here in this principle isn't to be like, well, you haven't earned my trust, Brian, so I just keep that over your head. You messed up, so trust is going to take time, so I'm just going to punish you then. Punish you, and then maybe at some point you'll earn my trust. This is where forgiveness is really important. Now, forgiveness is not something that we are waiting to give. Forgiveness is a proactive response that says we should be forgiving people. That's what the Bible says.
Right.
It's a command. It's not a suggestion. So being forgiving then kind of activates the trust earning process to begin again.
Yeah.
And that's important because the point here is not to punish your spouse when they mess up and made a withdraw from the trust account.
Right.
You then, as the spouse that's been wounded, needs to say, you know what? I forgive you for that. Now let's start earning trust. And it's the vehicle that moves you forward.
Yeah. It's not one or the other. Every marriage needs forgiveness. You need to be proactive. But remember, trust is reactive. So never use forgiveness as a license to just keep blowing it, right? Always be earning trust, so that your spouse can react to you in a way that shows that you're trustworthy, but always be willing to forgive, be proactive about being forgiving. So that's enough for this topic today. Now use the questions below to talk about this with your mentoring couple or maybe even just with your spouse on your own. And don't forget, we'll also have some related topics below on the topic of trust if you want to dig into this and have a few more conversations about it. But then we'll see you in the next lesson, which is the third and final lesson for our Marriage Basics series, where we're going to talk about a really practical skill, the skill of communication. We'll see you in that video.